Hi everyone, and welcome to the show. Welcome to The Garage, a current affairs program in a garage. Who would have thunk it? Isn't she beautiful? This is one of the last real Rolls Royces ever made. They made 56 of these to celebrate the 56 years that Bentley and Rolls Royce were at crew. And I think most of them went to America or the Middle East. There's two in Australia, and that's one of them. Welcome to the show. Now, if it's in the news, on your mind, close to your heart, getting up your nose, or on your chest, it is in the court of public opinion. And welcome once again. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux, and this show on Channel 44, on the 44 network, right round Australia, covering all sorts of different subjects and topics. Anne Bressington, who's a member of the Upper House, joins us today. We also have John Quirke, former Senator John Quirke, good old-fashioned Labor man. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think it resonates with people as opposed to a modern Labor man. We'll ask him about that maybe. And also David Smith. He's a wonderful publisher. He used to be the head of the Advertiser newspapers here. He went off and he founded an empire based on really good quality magazines. And that's one of the hardest things you can do, to be a publisher of magazines. We have more magazines in this country catering to more needs and niches in the market than you probably have anywhere else in the world. Now, if you would like to get in touch with us at the end of the show, we will tell you about our website, but it's opinion@44adelaide.com.au, and we'd welcome all the feedback that we could possibly get from you. And remember, this is the show that never shoots the messenger. We shoot the breeze, but we never shoot the messenger. This is the time of year when we are watching the politicians pounding the pavements and pumping the flesh. We don't see them all that often. It's only when they want something, which in this particular case is our vote. I mean, they want their job back. That's pretty understandable. But we're a cynical bunch of people, and I suspect that we know that. Now, what they do, of course, at this time of the electoral cycle is they have a thing called the postal allowance. Now, the postal allowance enables them and their parties to bombard us with stuff, all about, predictably and understandably, why we should vote for this man or this woman, and all of the reasons why he or she is a good representative. I don't know what you do with this bump that comes through your letterbox. I won't be rude and tell you what I do with it. But the truth is they've got it the wrong way around. Now, these postal allowances boil down to millions of dollars worth of taxpayers' money. They get an allowance to send us stuff that we don't really take a lot of interest in. I have a feeling that most elections are swung by a handful of seats and maybe 8 or 10% at most of the people. They are the swinging voters. It's an awful lot of overkill to try and reach that small number of people. I've got a better way of doing it. What do you think of this? Why don't we get the postal allowance? Because we, the people, in the court of public opinion, we don't need to hear from them. They need to hear from us. It would do them a lot of good. So instead of millions of dollars being spent to send us their propaganda, we get free mail anywhere in Australia, maybe the world, but let's keep it to Australia. Anywhere in Australia, we can send free of charge a politician, state or federal, what we think, our questions. Now, I have this funny sense of humor where, am I fooling myself? Can I picture a politician sitting there in the morning when the mail comes in, anxiously waiting for the mail to come in, and then with his letter opener or her letter opener, opening it all up to see what we think of him or her? I don't think so. I'm fooling myself. But let's get it the right way around. They need to hear from us. We don't need to hear from them. Stand by, folks. Anne Bressington with us in a second. Stay with us. While we're waiting for Anne, Anne's apparently got car trouble, but if she'd rung me a little bit earlier, we've got a few cars here. Wouldn't have been any problem to just, Anne, we could have ducked over and picked you up. Anyway, she's a very interesting woman, I must tell you. The press, I don't know if you saw the thing in the Advertiser about the fluoride story, and I think it was Tory Shepherd who did the story rather cynically, but I guess if you're in public life, you've got to accept criticism. It does exist out there. And she has certain things, like Agenda 21, which is what I wanted to talk to her about, and I hope before the end of the program I'll get the opportunity to do that. It's about apparently Australia signing up to some wacky United Nations agenda, or what do they call it? A proposition. And apparently nobody in the Australian government read it, but we signed up to it. Now, I find that very hard to believe. You know, I just, that would be gobsmackingly awful if it was true. Anyway, I do want to talk to Anne about Agenda 21. We have a new member of our jury, and you'll be meeting her in a little while. Her name is Karen Stevens, registered psychologist, multi-scholarship winner, and is currently working under scholarship at the DSTO. That's the Office of Science and Technology, Defence Science and Technology Organisation. Do you know what that is? Do you? It's highly secret, and that's where all the spies, I can't call them spies. Yes, I will. I'll call them spies. That's where all the spies are. Now, speaking of things military, I don't know if you've caught up with this, but they've decided for the umpteenth time that, you know, Simpson, John Simpson Kirkpatrick, Simpson and his donkey, they've decided after another inquiry that he is not going to get a Victoria Cross. You know the story. It's one of those great stories you learn in school about true heroism. An unarmed man at Gallipoli with a donkey goes backwards and forwards under heavy fire, rescuing and carrying wounded soldiers back to base where they can be treated by the Red Cross. Would you find anything more heroic than that? Didn't have a gun, had a donkey and a very big heart. Who is in charge of handing out medals? Who would say that Simpson did not deserve a Victoria Cross? Well, they've said it again. They don't want to do it because it's retrospective. What's the problem with some of our greatest heroes? To go back and look at their heroism is retrospective. I don't get it myself. And the other man who is legendary is the man called Teddy Sheehan. Apparently there are several other conspicuously brave Australians who have been denied awards, but this is the man who got up on the back of the destroyer or the frigate or whatever it was under Japanese fire, and he strapped himself to the machine gun or the cannon. I'm not sure what sort of weapon it was, but he strapped himself to it, and as the ship went down he continued to fire at the aeroplane, which was strafing not just his ship but all the ships around. Can you imagine that sort of heroism? Didn't jump overboard, didn't abandon ship, didn't abandon his post, didn't abandon his gun, kept on firing. Now they don't want to give him an award. I find that extraordinary. And I would say to you that if Julia Gillard had, I'm not saying she doesn't have flair, she's certainly got a thick hide, but if she had any flair, she would have seen that story and said, well, I will come up with another award for these people. It'll be, I don't know whether it would be regarded by the military people as better than the Victoria Cross. Have you ever seen a Victoria Cross, by the way? I'll show you this. It is a very, very beautiful, remarkably understated decoration, but it is the one to which everyone, I guess, would aspire. The Victoria Cross. These come up at auction. I don't know how people or families could possibly auction them and just put the money in the bank and say, well done. But that's apparently what happens. But come up with another medal, another award for these people who are denied the Victoria Cross. Give these people the recognition that this country would like to see them have. And if you're interested in things military, just very quickly, and you know the show goes around Australia, so it's not really available to everybody, but there's an arms, military and collectible fair, which is a brilliant assortment of guns and swords and medals and uniforms and all sorts of interesting things. Now that is going to be, I think it costs about $8 to get in, and it's on the 16th and 17th of March at Angle Park. That's the Greyhound track here in Adelaide, and it's always filled with people. Peter Gers goes every year. We'll take a quick break and be right back. Don't know where Anne is. Adelaide's not such a big place that we can't get her here, but we'll keep watching the door. Last time I watched that door, I think I said to you, a car drove in. Well, what do you expect? It is a working garage, let's face it, which up this end we use as a television studio. Now, the things we're taking to the street in the Court of Public Opinion today, you know, they've decided that they're not going to collect our garbage every week. They want to sort of do it every other week. And yes, the bins are smaller. And I thought councils were all about rates and rubbish and things like that, and roads. Anyway, we'll see what you think about that. Should we go nuclear? I mean, we've got the raw material. We sell it to all sorts of people around the world. Why can't we have the benefit of this, I was going to say clean, but non-polluting, in the greenhouse sense, form of energy? What else are we doing? Preachers in the mall, which is an extraordinary story. Preachers in the mall? Why don't people like preachers in the mall? I mean, the guy's just standing there saying, I'd like to save you from hell. Listen to the word of God. I mean, you can hear worse things than that in the mall, but we'll talk about that. And supermarkets that want to put wine on the shelves. What's wrong with that? I suppose it depends on whether you own a supermarket or you own a little bottle shop and you're a bit frightened of what's going to happen to you. Before I introduce you to Senator John Quirke, let me tell you that this week they celebrate what they call Annual International Women's Day. Female workers, this happened in 1880, female workers of the International Garment Workers Union demonstrated in New York against long hours, low pay, and intolerable working conditions. And that was a strike that was heard about all over the world. What else? The first non-stop flight from San Francisco to Sydney by Qantas, it was a 707. The first US ground combat troops, Marines in fact, arrived in South Vietnam. What else indeed? I like this one. A cattle dog, Labrador Cross, called Chilla, died in Broadbeach in Queensland. 32 years and 3 days old was that dog. The 31st birthday got a telegram from the Queen Mother. Amazing. In the Guinness Book of Pet Records as the oldest dog that ever lived. Senator Quirke, are you well?
I am indeed, Jeremy. Thank you for having me here today.
I don't know, I suppose you do a bit of lobbying and you do a bit of business and you sit on boards and all that kind of thing. Is that as interesting as the Senate was to you?
It's different. But yeah, look, it is. I've been very lucky in life. I started life sanding down washing machines and fridges and selling them. Well, I didn't sell them, the company sold them.
You mean you're a politician who actually had a real job?
Actually, I counted up the other day. I've had 15 in my life.
Well, God bless
and
you.
They've each one's been better than the last one. But look, I have a very interesting life. I deal with only the clients that I really want to in terms of lobbying, and I get some great things. I'm dealing with a thing right now where 385 news agents are being shafted by the state government, and they've done a contract. That's where I was this morning, and the state government's done a contract which brings in 2 American multinationals both of which had been kicked out of Western Australia at some time or another because they couldn't meet the service standards.
Yeah.
And so there's a company here in Adelaide that parcels up the stationery, and it has about 80 employees. And they're unfortunately slowly but surely about to be made redundant. And the newsagents out there who suffered from the lottery's decision last year are about to lose some of their members. And so it's something that's one of the things I've lobbied for, and I really believe in it.
Well, what do you do as a lobbyist? Is it about the people you know, or is it about the entree you have to them, or is it about the persistence of just knocking on the door until somebody, or maybe you kick down the door, I don't know. What do you do?
All of the above. All of the above. And when you get a case like this, the first thing you have to do is to make sure that you've got a clear-cut case of what's happening. I went out yesterday and I met 12 workers, and I took the union out there because I need their support. They've got a few members. Yeah. And I said, look, this guy would like to help you, but, you know, you've got to sign up. And there was a blind woman there who developed leukemia, and through all of the treatment for it, lost her sight. Now, this company's employed her, only employs her 1 day a week, but she does things that others don't want to do, and it gives her real meaning in her life. And so when you see that sort of stuff and you think that job's getting sold out overseas, it's not hard to pick up the thing.
In this particular case, why can't the people who think they can do it better see the logic? Why do you have to lobby them? I mean, it should be bleeding obvious that they're doing the wrong thing.
Well, it is obvious, and the problem is they've signed a contract and they're worried about a thing called sovereign risk, which means with the two multinationals, they may have to pay compensation. They called a tender for across the whole of the government stationery because some public servants were buying many more toner cartridges than what they should have. In fact,
with undue persuasion.
Well, I think it was furniture or whatever they were giving it.
But isn't that corruption?
Well, actually, Jeremy, it's funny you say that. When I spoke to various ministers about it, they said, yes, we need to make it expressly forbidden. And I said, well, I actually voted up a bill in about 91, I think it was, when I was in there, which talked about public officers and their responsibilities. And I would have thought it is. Anyway, these people are being investigated, but the problem is, one fellow apparently bought 25 years' supply of these things, and so the government has decided to have a whole of government stationery contract. Yeah. And they didn't have to throw the schools in, but they did. And what's happened is that the local newsagent, 385 of them have got a cooperative. And they've got this warehouse, which is called KW, just a business name.
Yeah. And all this worked rather well.
40 years it worked, and in fact, they've got letter after letter now saying, we want to continue.
Well, can you overturn it?
Yeah, I think we will.
And this morning the news is, they're all a chatter about Patrick Conlon, who was a minister, I think, for 11 years in the state Labor government, and he's now gone to the back bench. He's going to retire, and he's accepted a job with Minter Ellison, big law firm. People are upset about that. What's your opinion of politicians who are still sitting, members, and they are doing a bit of extra work on the side? Is that okay?
Oh, Jeremy, that's a hard one because this guy's been a lifelong friend. I mean, I must say that if he can do his duties as an MP...
And he would know.
Yeah, then I think that's his decision. My view of it is that people think that politicians shouldn't be paid, they shouldn't have lurks and perks, and when they go, they shouldn't have a pension. I think the biggest mistake, and I think we're paying for it now, it's starting to show through, when Latham decided to move on the pensions, of course, he took a big one himself. But when he did that, when he did that, and all of the politicians caved in every state except Queensland, I believe. Now, you know, look, Jeremy, if you are an accountant or a lawyer like Patrick, and you go into politics. I mean, Patrick would be 51, 2, 3. I went to his 50th birthday. He's still got a lot to offer somewhat, and he obviously is highly marketable. Minter Ellison's want him. Other people would want him. But that's not the want of most politicians. If they go in, and they go in younger in Australia than they do in Britain, and they may stay around for 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, and then they're out there, what do? They're an accountant, a lawyer, or some other occupation, doctor, it's fine. But if you're a normal person and you haven't got those sorts of things, you've lost your best earning years, and then you're out there on the scrap heap.
Yeah,
I mean, I use every opportunity for this. I used to be the unofficial wage representative for both sides when I was in state politics, and I quickly got that job in Canberra. And I mean, at the end of the day, you have to pay your politicians, and you have to make sure you are getting the best of them. And I would say that the current crop, state and federal, is not as good as it could be. And I suspect, I got to say, it's the pension. I use every opportunity to say that. Had I fallen under a truck when I was the state member for Playford, my widow with 4 children would have been $10,000 a year better off than on social security.
So keep away from the traffic.
That's it.
Take care of yourself, John.
Thank you very much.
Senator John Quirke, great to see you. In the Court of Public Opinion.
Come gather round people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone.
Let me introduce you to the jury. We have Karen Stevens. Karen, welcome.
Thanks.
Michael.
Hello.
It's kind of like time you were on the couch.
Well,
What are you doing?
I found the Bible.
You found the Bible.
Well, those street preachers have been given the flick from Rundle Mall.
Well,
Haven't they?
yes and no, but all right.
Ladies.
You expect to find, yes, Michael Pratt, yes. Coralie Cheney.
Hi, Jeremy.
You expect to find inspiration or justification or condemnation?
I mean,
Redemption.
if the show goes a bit slow, perhaps we could read something from the Bible.
Well, this show...
Can we do an epilogue?
This show does not go slowly.
All right, then.
No, sir.
Okay.
No. We've got some interesting topics here. Shall we do that one first?
That one
Yes.
Now, I don't exactly kind of get what the City Council did. Whether they were responding to people in the mall who said, we don't like preachers telling us that the end is nigh, or suddenly the council just decided that it didn't want to have Christianity in the mall. But whatever happened, it went all the way to the High Court. Now, the High Court apparently, what does that cost? Michael,
lot of money.
$200,000 or something?
Yes.
And all it was about, apparently, was to get a license. Go down to the council, get a license, and you can
And
go
that's
back
what
preaching.
the street preachers did.
And
they
they're
went
back
down
preaching.
to Town Hall and just applied for a permit, were granted one. So, as someone said, I hope the lawyers acting for the council were doing it pro bono, otherwise the ratepayers are up for a lot of money. I think the street preachers were a bit of in-your-face, bit of anti-sodomy and blokes and women and everything.
Is that in the Bible?
I'm looking for it.
All right, okay. While you're doing that, this is what
In the
you
book
have
of
to
Revelations would we find it.
Okay, this is what you had to say.
I find them really distracting and just overbearing. Like, I don't try and preach my thoughts at everyone else, so I don't see why they should be allowed to.
I do want them out. I find them really overbearing, very loud, and I just think it's wrong to inflict your opinions on everyone else in that way. Nobody else gets to do it.
I feel I don't like the way they push it. Like the way they do it isn't fantastic. I feel as though what they have in their hearts is good. Like a relationship with God is needed. That's good. But yeah, the way they do it isn't the right way about going about it. So to answer the question, probably not. No, not the way they're doing it.
Yeah, probably, because it kind of, makes it
not a very good experience when you're just wanting to shop and not have someone bother you, kind of thing. Yeah.
I think everyone should be able to say what they want to do whenever they want to do it. So, yep.
Get rid of them.
Yeah, they need to go.
I just feel like they're pushy and annoying, and
I mean, freedom of speech, like, no worries, but like, I mean, they're quite rude.
I don't think what they're doing is right. I feel like if you're a true Christian, you would know that you shouldn't be forcing it upon anyone or judging anyone, and I feel like they're just judgmental to everyone that walks past, and that's not what God is about, right?
Yeah,
So,
accepting each other.
yeah,
you know?
and they
like,
don't accept people because they call out things to people with brightly coloured hair.
I used to have like pink hair.
And they told her that was like devil
Yeah,
hair
they
or
said I was
something.
sinning.
Well, I don't think religion should be forced on you. It should be a purely voluntary thing, like, you know. That's about it.
I found it.
You're deep in it.
It says, let them eat cake.
No, wasn't that Marie Antoinette?
Oh, all right then. So it's wrong? I'll go to another.
Oh,
But surely they should be treated like the buskers in the mall, where they need a licence and they have certain rules and regulations that they need to respect.
And they should audition.
They should audition.
out at the DSDA.
But why should they be stopped? I mean, we have this right to be able to have freedom of speech, and why should that happen? So long as they abide by the rules.
yeah. Karen, what do you think? I mean,
Absolutely, no, I absolutely agree. And people don't have to stop and listen if they don't want to hear it.
Absolutely.
They are free to walk past. They don't have to stop.
and you see some very strange things in the mall. Very strange things.
Well, especially from the buskers.
Do you think they might have gone to Sydney for the gay and lesbian Mardi Gras?
What, the
to
preachers?
preach.
Yes. They would have got on a well there, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well.
With their megaphones.
Oh, and those dykes on bikes. Wouldn't they run over a few? Haven't found
You're
it.
Well, it's not charitable, but I just wonder about all that money being spent on something that could have been solved so easily. But interesting subject. Now, nuclear energy. We have the stuff. We have the means. We sell the stuff all over the world. Now, Karen, why wouldn't we, with the idea of cooling the planet and keeping everything green and all the rest of it, why wouldn't we go nuclear?
Well, I think it's a difficult debate, and certainly Japan's leading the research at the moment in making it cleaner, making it more efficient, making it safer. I still think it's really important that we don't put all of our research money into one particular basket, so to speak. I think it's important to also focus, especially in a country like Australia, to focus on solar energy.
Yeah.
And in a way, I suppose you could consider solar energy as a form of nuclear fusion because it's using the sun and the sun's energy. It's just that the reactor's 150 million kilometres away.
And it's a huge nuclear reactor. But they tell me that the way of the future is not fission, which is nuclear, it's fusion. But they can't quite figure out how to make it work.
Do you think those same Japanese researchers are the blokes who got flicked from the Japanese research on whaling, and they've gone across with the same practice? Very difficult debate, nuclear energy, because it becomes not in my backyard, we're going to put one of these. Political parties, the Greens and the left would decry it and say we need more solar or wind, which is not cost efficient. We have uranium mined in our backyard to turn it into yellow cake. We export it.
And to countries that have not signed the non-proliferation treaty, so we're pretty liberal.
To India,
yeah,
who are big users of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we know enough about it. I mean, I, for one, I certainly don't. I don't feel I've been informed on both sides as to the pros and the cons, but we certainly need to find an efficient, cheap form of energy. So, the world's going to fall apart if we can't plug in our iPods and our iPads and our iPhones very quickly.
We're well and truly wedded to it. But Michael,
we talk about radiation, and it's different. And what happened in Japan a couple of years ago, flattened and caused a tsunami, or the tsunami caused the reactor. But there's a great email out there about what happened at Hiroshima and Nagasaki 67 years ago. It was flattened, and people said, what happened to the radiation that would last 1,000 years? And on your screen, and what we have here today, is photos of a rebuilt, spectacular cities. Absolutely, Jeremy's got a line about who has benefited from the war. Germany and Japan. We flattened them, the Allies did, and they've been rebuilt into powerhouses.
Well, they had the opportunity to completely retool in the broad sense. All our industries.
Yes.
and they did it at our expense because somehow along the way, I guess we felt guilty about what we had done.
In that same email, they've got a picture of Detroit that is like a ghost town now because of the lack of business there.
I think it was Davern Park.
Sure, it was Detroit.
He didn't mean it. Well, we took the vexed question of nuclear energy to the streets, and here is your opinion.
No.
Why not?
Just bad for the country. I mean, it'll be good for jobs and everything, but it won't be safe, I don't think.
If we need it, I have no problem with nuclear energy. We mine it, it's fairly safe. Yeah, I have no problem if required.
No. Because there are better alternatives.
I think it's inevitable, as long as it's used for the right means, not for destruction, but used for energy purposes. That's fine.
I'm not a world leader. I don't think so. Like we've got heaps of natural resources. Do you know what I mean? I think you're sort of playing with fire in that category. Nuclear. Do you know what I mean? I think The Simpsons told us enough about that. We should learn our lessons from that, I reckon, honestly.
I don't think so. I think there's other things, other means to explore before you go nuclear. Like, solar energy hasn't really, I don't think, really been utilised as much as it could be. And yeah, something like that instead of nuclear. I think nuclear is getting a little bit dangerous.
It's a clean energy, believe it or not. I believe it's a clean energy. The use of coal-fired power stations is definitely a no-no. You're not going to have those resources forever. Solar is just far too expensive. And yes, I believe that they should have nuclear. Yep.
Okay. Now, in our beautiful suburbs, they're apparently saying to us, not only are you getting a smaller garbage bin, but we're only going to pick it up every other week.
On weekends.
And no discount on the rates and the taxes. Coralie, what do you think about that?
Well, I think about all the pooey nappies that will be sitting in bins for a fortnight, smelly seafood that's going to be in the heat of summer, not very pleasant, rats, disease, maggots, etc. Look, I think they really have to make some serious considerations about this, because this is a health risk if they don't look at this properly, and people will be dumping their rubbish in supermarket bins and all of that kind of thing because they won't want them, they won't want it in their backyard, the smell.
I'm taking mine to the entertainment centre because you get yours picked up.
Regularly. Exactly, we recycle too.
But I thought there was Burnside, for international viewers, leafy suburb, eastern suburbs, have just recently tooled up. You now have 3 bins here, don't you? There's a red lid and a purple lid.
I don't even know what to do, but there's a code and there's a whole complicated ballet that has to take place every Thursday night.
Dropping in
Yes.
bins.
But I thought there was a push to try and get this banned weekday pickups and get it on weekends to keep the trucks off the road. But that has been floated before but has been dismissed.
Karen, I thought this whole thing was put to bed 6 months ago. They had the debate, somebody floated the story, and then there was a big outrage, and then it was all over Red Rover. Apparently not, it's back.
It's outrageous. I think it's absolutely outrageous, and I agree. And I think that I'm surprised that the health organisation hasn't weighed in on this actually, and they will. Well, they should, because I really see it as a
There'll be a government department that'll workshop it somewhere, probably out at Edinburgh.
And I mean, you can see the cost-cutting benefits that they're trying to save, but at what risk to our health, if there's some sort of disease spread or something like that. And especially in the middle of summer, I just think, woohoo.
No, I can't wait for this. Here's your opinion.
I think it will be difficult to get used to, but it will work in the end. Yeah.
It'll be a pain in the neck. Got to be done every week.
It should be every week, because when we have parties, we need to empty those bins before our parents get home.
Totally, exactly the same. Like, if you miss one, you should be able to make up the next one, not like miss it and then wait for 4 weeks later. So, yeah.
Especially if you go on holiday or something for like a couple of days, come back, you're basically screwed.
Yeah, no joke.
Oh, look, I've got a big family, lots of kids. That's not ideal for me. I need a bigger bin if that's what they're going to do. Simple as that.
Yeah, I only heard about that yesterday. Maybe in winter will be okay, but I'm not real keen in summer because there's some awfully smelly bins around the place, especially with seafood over Christmas. You don't want that sitting around for 2 weeks looking to be emptied.
Yeah, I think people will be a little bit more mindful of what they're chucking out rather than just, throwing things away all over the place. Like, I think that it would definitely make us try and be a little bit more careful with, our rubbish and that kind of stuff.
Now, should we be selling wine, booze, in supermarkets? A lot of lobbying about this. Here's what you think.
Nah, no way. Because kids can get it too easy. I was one of them kids, do you know what I mean, that did it, and I look back at it now and I think how stupid I was and how stupid I looked, do you know what I mean? And it's sad. It's sad having that there. It's a family thing, do you know what I mean? It's a supermarket. Yeah, it needs to be different, yeah.
I think that if people are going to drink, then it doesn't really matter where they buy it from.
Yep, why not? They do now. I mean, you only have to hop through the little sliding door and you're into the Coles or the Woolworths section anyway, so yeah, sell it on the shelf.
No, because it's not served to under 18s, so yeah, it shouldn't. It'd be too hard to make sure it's not being sold to underages and that if it's just on the shelf.
I don't mind. Been to New Zealand, they sell it there. Been to Victoria, they sell it there, so I don't see what the difference is really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I mean, either way, they're still going to ask for your ID, right? So what's the difference between going to a bottle shop and having it in Woolworths? There isn't really much of a difference.
Look, I don't see why we don't. I've travelled through Asia. I'm from Europe originally. Alcohol is sold in supermarkets there. You still have your laws, but there's no reason why we have to have this current system of bottlers and everything else. It's a product. People can use it if they're entitled to, and they're of the legal age and everything else.
No, never, no. Like someone little could just, snatch it and run away. That's such a negative to sell it on the shelf.
Yeah, if they ask for ID, I mean, I work in a supermarket, I sell smokes, it's basically the same thing.
I think in certain areas, yes. Like not out in the remote areas, obviously, where that is a kind of a problem. But yeah, I think, that's fine.
Karen, just before we get into booze in the supermarkets,
yes,
I was just chatting about you before you arrived, and that you were a psychologist and working for DSTO. Is that a spy organisation? I've always believed it was.
Now, Jeremy, we talked about this, so you know that I'm not authorised to talk about any of my work down at the DSTO.
You could talk about it, but you'd have to kill me if you did.
That's right, yeah, sorry.
Right, okay.
She's probably got a barcode that when she gets scanned going through a supermarket, something happens, all the shutters go up. I think I found the barcode.
That happens in banks, not supermarkets.
Right.
Now, Karen,
yes.
The people who are yelling and screaming about this booze in the supermarkets, or wine in the supermarkets, are predictably the people who've got the small shop and they know that the supermarket is going to have its way. And they've got their own liquor outlets anyway, lots and lots of them. What do you think? Is it on whose side do you come down?
Look, I lived in Europe a couple of years ago, and they do have alcohol in supermarkets there, and it's fantastic. Absolutely, they should allow alcohol in supermarkets. However, I think that it's important that the bottle shops differentiate themselves in the market and ensure that they provide that more boutique service.
Yeah.
So supermarkets, they don't have that extensive range that you would find in a bottle shop. Really, it's only one or two kind of shelves or one aisle that's dedicated to it. So I think it's important that bottle shop owners make sure that they connect with their customers, they provide that boutique service, and I don't think their job should be at risk at all.
No, I disagree. This is just another greedy push and a grab by the duopoly known as Coles and Woolworths that will allow, and I understand why the small independents, IGA and Roger Drake, a great successful South Australian businessman, they want a bit of it. But you're taking away the artisan skill of a bottle shop, as well as a Woolworths and Coles going to allow 17-year-old kids who are underage to sell wine at the checkout?
Does it really matter?
Well, it does, because it's my argument.
They wouldn't.
Of course it matters.
It's his opinion and he's
My
entitled
opinion.
to it.
Yeah. No, it's just the pubs and the bottle shops have got so many licence restrictions. They got huge money invested in this capital invested in their premises. The pop-up bars are giving them a flogging at the moment. And they don't have to reply with the same licence restrictions, numbers, toilet facilities that the pubs and clubs have got to do. And security.
Yeah.
They probably would have arrangements with the licensing or something about who is to serve it or to supply it in the supermarkets, both
Yeah, but
putting it through cash register or
the
whatever.
truth is that we
age-wise.
are pretty much awash with alcohol. It's not difficult to get.
It's not.
Do we need more outlets? I don't know.
But it is
I mean,
convenient when you pop in to buy that,
Of course
quick
it is.
thing for dinner that night, and then you can think, oh, you just get
and
that
we're
bottle of
spoiled.
wine.
But let me say one thing. Coles and Woolworths, between them, may have 85% of the market.
They do.
But you'd think they'd hire a PR company, because every program I hear and every current affairs show, everyone is monstering the duopoly, the evil power that these people have, and it'll never stop until they've ground everybody, every competitor out of the marketplace. You know, you'd imagine that Coles and Woolworths would put a few shekels into improving their image in this regard.
Well, they do,
Trying.
and they brought the Vicar of Dibley out to do the down,
That's
down,
right.
down.
And-
That
and-
worked well, didn't
and
it?
Curtis.
All she did was lose weight.
Well, I didn't recognise it, to be honest with you.
No.
Karen, lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, I still haven't found this. Praise the Lord and send more money. That's all I can find. I might become I'm a lapsed Christian.
But get your licence first before you go into
To
the
be a
mall.
Christian?
Yes.
No, before you go into the mall.
Well, you even need a licence to be a preacher. Coralie, thanks so much.
Jeremy.
The Court of Public Opinion. Have a think about this. What do you reckon is the biggest selling magazine in South Australia? And my next guest, knowing him, he probably has one of these planned for every single state in the country. While you're thinking about that, I said at the beginning of the program, when I was mentioning that David Smith would be on the show, that we are probably the most over-catered for market in the world for magazines. We are great magazine buyers, but it is not exactly what you might call a bed of roses if you want to start a magazine. Do you remember, what was it called? Sam, the South Australian magazine. People have tried to have a local magazine before, but they've not quite made it, whether it's quality or it's energy or it's, I don't know. But there was one great moment of publishing when David Smith came up with this. It's called S.A. Life. David, welcome.
Thanks, Jeremy.
You must be very proud of that.
It's been good fun, and yes, I am proud of it, yes.
When I first knew you, or knew of you, you were the managing director of the Advertiser?
Yes, that's correct. I came here, I was transferred here, I was the editor of the Courier Mail in Queensland. When Rupert Murdoch bought the Advertiser, I got transferred here, and I edited the Advertiser, then I became the managing director of the Advertiser.
Yeah.
Then I was transferred to head office in Sydney, and subsequently left. Bought a little magazine in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales, then came back to Adelaide.
Yep.
With S.A. Life.
Well, the funny thing about it is that when you look at it, it's quality. You know, the colour, the paper, but it must take enormous courage and lots of money to say, I'm going to put together something that is going to be stunning. No shortcuts. You put it together, and then you wait for people to come in the shop and buy it.
Yeah, I think the thing that the philosophy that I had about Adelaide, and we did a lot of research about starting this magazine. You might remember I talked with you about it. What do you think of the idea? And your answer was, well, it's a brave thing that you're thinking of doing. But my attitude was, if I produce something of quality and something that South Australians would be very proud of. See, South Australians aren't bold people. They appreciate quality, but they're not like Sydney people, or Brisbane people are brash. South Australians aren't like that. South Australians have a unique perspective, and I like South Australia. I love Adelaide, in that there's a gentleness about South Australia and about Adelaide people, and there's a thoughtfulness. And so the way that I tried to make the magazine was like that. It's quite a contemporary magazine because Adelaide is contemporary. There's a big art scene, big restaurant scene, big motoring scene. And so I felt that if I could measure up to the expectations of Adelaide rather than attempting to make a quick buck, and we certainly didn't make a quick buck. But this is our 10th year.
But you look at people who have failed, and you know, I love Ita, but she tried her darndest to get that magazine working. And you've got magazines in decline. Many of the household name kind of magazines are fighting for circulation, but not you.
Well,
you must be enormously...
I've had wins and losses, Jeremy. I mean, I was partners with Ida in a magazine called Bark, which was a wonderful magazine. We sold a lot of magazines but didn't make any money because the advertising wasn't there. And also I owned a magazine in Tasmania which I subsequently sold.
Oh.
Life isn't always easy. Life isn't a bed of roses, but the thing about life is you've got to get out of bed every morning and think you're going to win.
Yes.
And produce a product that deserves to win.
Yes.
And that's the way we've looked at it with all of the things we do in South Australia. We don't only do SA Life, we do several other magazines as well.
Yep.
And so our attitude is one of
Tell
attempting to
me
meet the market and
Tell me about
quality.
the other magazines. You brought some in. Do you want to, Amber, pass them in to me? And you're also publishing books, because you sent me a beautiful book on the Southern Highlands.
Yes. And
this printer's ink must be in your blood.
We publish SA Homes, which is an annual. We publish SA Gardens, which is twice a year. We publish SA Food and Wine, which is annual. We've published a coffee table book here called This is South Australia.
Yep.
A big coffee table book, $80 coffee table book.
And you have a television show.
Yes, we're partners with Channel 7 here.
Yep. So that's the SA Life that you'd be familiar with.
Yep.
And this is your 100th
issue, yeah.
Issue?
That was last December, yeah.
Right.
We produced...
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a milestone. And then SA Life Food and Wine.
Yep.
And of course, all of these become great ambassadors for the state, because I guess people send them around the country. And there's this one.
That one won the National Gardening Writers Award.
Yeah.
So I'm proud about that. SA Life is in the lounges in Qantas and Virgin in Perth, Adelaide obviously, and Melbourne.
And I see Don Burke's magazine is closed.
Yes. Yeah.
Which was a surprise. And SA Home and Interiors. We do love our magazines, and we are selective. And I got the feeling too that when I go into the local newsagent, they have a huge wall of SA Life. So you've got good support from the local people.
I think one of the keys to that, Jeremy, is that we've never gone into supermarkets.
No.
We support the news agency system, and they support us. And that's why, I mean, the fact that they've helped us become the biggest selling magazine in South Australia. And in return, we've been loyal to them. And I think that's very important.
Yep.
Because it's very easy to put your product out where it's readily available, sure, but all you're doing is reducing a small business and helping a very, very large conglomerate. And my attitude is that news agencies are under some strain, and therefore we will do everything we can to support them. So therefore, we get a really good result back from them.
It is an interesting week in publishing, and you being a newspaper man. The Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, these two great mastheads that somehow seem to have lost their way, or their circulation, or their following, or something. Mojo, maybe, I don't know. They've gone to the tabloid size. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, I like it. In fact, I keep all of these things. I'm a bit of a print collector. And so I kept the last broadsheet version of the Sydney Morning Herald, and I bought extra copies of the first tabloid version yesterday. And I like it a lot. And in fact, it makes the Fin Review, which is a tabloid size, look old-fashioned. Comes out of the same stable. The only question that I do have is it's highly designed. The Sydney Morning Herald is New Sydney Morning Herald is highly designed. Therefore, graphically, there's a massive amount of effort has gone into it. Now, if there is a cost pressure on journalism, and that's why people are making journalists redundant, I certainly hope that they can keep up this very detailed and very good graphic design that they've produced. I actually liked it because I fly a lot, and it was good on the plane.
Oh yes, it's terrible. I'm trying to do this sort of thing. Yeah, but just quickly, do you see a time when people won't buy newspapers, that it's all going to be on people. I can't imagine people reading news on their mobile phone, but they tell me that this is what's going to happen, or on a tablet, or do you see anything like that happen?
God forbid.
Well, they have been forecasting the
they
end
have.
of newspapers for 40 years.
Yeah, they forecast the end of radio when television came along, and they forecast the end of cinema when television came along. And,
Yes.
and they're still here. And in fact, radio is one of the great mediums, I think. But I have no doubt that circulation will decline quite dramatically.
Well, you've got to adapt. He who survives is one who has adapted and used the real world to compete.
Yeah.
We live in interesting times, David.
We do.
Great to see you.
Thanks,
you.
Jeremy.
All the best.
Thank you.
And he still calls Adelaide home, and you might see him running around in his red MGB. David Smith in the Court of Public Opinion. Anne Bressenden, where are you? We're at the end of the show, and you didn't show. Anyway, I was going to say live television, but you know what I mean. We'll have to catch up with her another day. Bruno, I want to introduce you to Bruno. We do a little heavy petting on the program here. With the help of the Animal Welfare League, I am a 3-year-old Staffordshire Bull Terrier cross looking for a home. I'm a very active dog, full of energy, wants lots of exercise. For me, the world is great fun. I swear this dog's smiling. I just need to learn some manners when interacting with other dogs and people. It's a small thing. It would be fun. I would be a fun dog to own. I wear a harness when walking, don't we all? And if you have an active lifestyle, we would be a good match. I am desexed, microchipped, vaccinated, health checked, and come and see me at the Animal Welfare League. 1 to 19 Cormac Road, Wingfield. Peter Sellen will show you around. Telephone number is 83481300, or it's the awl.com.au. Betty Samis.
Hello.
You've been around.
I have been around.
And what have you seen?
Well, I went to see, look, the buzz around town is Disney's new movie called Oz. It's the prequel to The Wizard of Oz, how he became the wizard.
All right.
And he was a magician that was working in a small town that got taken up by the twister or tornado. It's a bit like Dorothy. And basically he was a bit of a con man, bit of a womanizer, and he wanted to make good. I'm not going to spoil it. It is a fantastic movie to take your brother, your sister, your mum, your dad, kids, grandkids. The fantasy, we all like fantasy, right? Colour is amazing. You can see it in 3D. Unfortunately, the preview, I could only see it in 2D, and that was brilliant in itself. So it's about the Wicked Witch of the East. There's the Wicked Witch of the North, how she became the Wicked Witch of the East. It is spectacular. You need to take Christopher. You're going to love it.
We'll mark that in.
That opens on Thursday. Okay, now, it was all about car racing on the weekend.
You went?
I went. We had the Clipsal 500, and of course the big buzz around town was Kiss and Motley Crue's concert. They had record crowds. Do you know? They had 286,000 overall, and on the Sunday, 95,000 as compared to 82,000 last year. So good on the boys.
Yeah, so it's growing. I mean, the people who put that on are very good at what they do. Very practiced.
Yeah. Well, it was a great concert. Now, Kiss are touring with Motley Crue at the moment. They've already performed here in Adelaide, and they played Perth, Melbourne. Now, they are in Sydney this weekend, if we're going to Sydney. All the Sydney people can go and see Kiss and Motley Crue. And then the following weekend, they're doing Brisbane, and they're going up to Mackay. So who knows, they might take a bit of a cruise around the Whit Sundays after.
Yeah, well, it's a nice part of the world.
Like rock stars do. Okay, WOMAD, what an amazing festival this is. This is the World Music Festival.
Who invented that?
Well, you know who invented that was Peter Gabriel from Genesis with a group of people. Founded in about
I knew it was someone famous, but I don't know.
In 1980. And it is a celebration of the world of music, art and dance. And I went last year for the first time. I didn't know what to expect. It's a great atmosphere for families. Everything's so nice and peaceful. You see different cultures, different music. And do you know that WOMAD is held in the UK, in New Zealand, in Abu Dhabi, in Spain and Italy, and we get it here in Australia.
And most importantly, here in
Adelaide, and a lot of people fly in from interstate. I know so many people that come for this festival, so that is fantastic. Now, rumoured to be touring.
Whom?
Right, Rolling Stones, Fleetwood Mac.
Rolling Stones, I mean, their cumulative age must be 250. They're getting on.
And they're still great at what about Kiss? They're in their 60s.
Yeah, yeah.
They were amazing. Gene Simmons still did all his, fantastic.
I don't think I want to know.
When it comes to Gene Simmons, probably not. Okay, and for you, look, the Seekers are touring in May.
Yeah, I don't know. The Seekers, I love the Seekers.
I know you do, so
but
I wanted to tell you that.
They retired.
Well, so did John Farnham.
And so did I.
That's right.
Actually, yes, I did.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can only smell the roses for so long.
That's right. Now, on the
Seekers, welcome back.
That's right. On the weekend, I went to Soundwave with your gorgeous daughter, and I bumped into a lovely lady there called Avalon, and she's posted on the Court of Public Opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cordeaux.
Mr. Cordeaux?
Yes. How polite is this lady? For caring about animals. And then she proceeded to say, he is the Rolls voice of radio.
The Rolls voice?
Yes. How great is that?
I think I'll register that.
I think you should too.
The Rolls voice. That's very clever.
Rolls voice of radio.
What's her name?
Avalon.
Well, that's a great name too.
Yes.
The Rolls voice. I'll get that registered today. Now, thank you to our crew and all our supporters. Have a lovely week. The Court of Public Opinion is my registered trademark. Believe in yourself, and goodbye for now.